member of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, the premier professional body in India under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. That it was one of the PSU IPOs which was oversubscribed in terms of almost 157 times. If you see in an IPO, there are at least minimum 18 to 20 approvals of board and shareholders. I think in 2004, Ministry of Corporate Affairs has introduced e-filing.
Yeah.
It's an eye-opener.
Hello everyone, welcome to FaceTime with Leaders, a podcast series by World Development Corporation, and I am esteemed, uncovering some great achievements and contributions of unsung heroes and inspiring others. In our today's show, we are going to explore Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Kumar's accomplished career in the field of secretarial services. Her latest role was at Mazgaon Shipbuilders Limited. Hi Ms. Kumar, and thank you so much for being with us today. So, Mrs. Kumar, you have a vast background across both the public as well as private sectors with good experience in MNCs. Having such a multifaceted experience is astounding. So, how did your roles as a company secretary pave the way for such a glorious journey?
Thank you, Smith. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I became the member of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, the premier professional body in India under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs in the year 1997. I started my post-qualification career as company secretary from the year 1999 till December 2023. During my career, I worked for listed and closely held public companies in the private and public sector, including the MNCs. If you see the basic functions of a company secretary is to assist the chairperson of the meeting and or the board in the convening and conducting of various meetings of the board, the committees, and the general meeting, to issue notice, agenda, and minutes, to update statutory records, registers, including finalized and signed minutes, to make various statutory filings with the authorities, that is the governmental Ministry of Corporate Affairs and regulatory bodies like the SEBI, to ensure compliance of Companies Act, SEBI Act, SEBI rules and regulations, stock exchange listing agreement, secretarial standards, as applicable to the company during its conduct of business, to inform the board about the compliance of rules and regulations pertaining to other act and other laws which is applicable to the company, and also to do certain tasks which is entrusted by the board. If you actually see, a company is a legal entity and it is managed by the governing body, primary governing body, that is the Board of Directors. So therefore, the Board of Directors is the conscience of the company. If you look at the various functions of the company secretary and specified in the Act, the company secretary can be rightly called as the conscience keeper of the company. During the course of work life of a company secretary, one has to comply, make various returns, file various returns which are timely. It could be annual, it could be time-based, it could be event-based, and also seek various approvals and consents from the government agencies like the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, the SEBI, regulatory bodies like the SEBI. And therefore, the company secretary is constantly working with the government. In fact, it would be prudent for the company secretary to think like how the authorities think. I mean, on what basis these rules and regulations were made, so that one can achieve total compliance. I mean, in sync with the regulatory bodies and the ministries.
Thank you so much for that. That's super interesting. I'm sure the conversation will get even more interesting as it unfolds. In your latest role, you've served at the Mazgaon Shipbuilders Limited and had the opportunity to serve amongst the key management personnel. What's more interesting is that you have also undertaken the IPO listing of the company. Can you tell us more about how you managed it?
Well, IPO of any company is the transformation of the entire organization in terms of its people, processes,
Yeah.
systems, culture. So IPO is actually a team effort of various organizations, agencies, like the board of director of the companies, the on the board committee, the off the board committee comprising of the senior managerial personnel and the other executives of the company representing various departments, the merchant bankers, the auditors, the legal advisors, the consultants. So it's a joint effort of all these agencies coming together. I would call the Mazgaon IPO was one of its kind, and it is there in the public. It was a unique IPO. It was actually an offer for sale made by the government of India, disinvesting its 15.75% of shares to the
Hmm.
public.
Hmm.
It was one of the kind because it has achieved various milestones. One of the crucial milestone, being that it was one of the PSU IPOs, which was oversubscribed in terms of almost 157 times
Oh, wow.
the issue. So that is why it has a significant role.
Sure.
Typically, in an IPO, the company secretary has to comply and oversee various functions pre-IPO, during the IPO, and post-IPO. Some of the major being like if if the company is a private company, it needs to be converted into a public company.
Hmm.
The articles and memorandum and articles of association of the company needs to be amended so as to remove the restrictive clauses. The various intermediaries like the merchant bankers, register and transfer agents, legal advisors are to be onboarded. Accordingly, suitable approvals from the board has to be undertaken. Uh, Review of the financial account auditing policies and financial account statements has to be done. So, and if needed, restatement of financial statements are to be undertaken. Review of various litigations in the company has to be made. Review of various existing policies in the company uh, 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 and updating it in sync with that of the SEBI regulation has to be made.
Hmm.
Uh, the entire shareholding, dematerialization of the entire shareholding has to be provided. There are various agreements to be entered between these intermediaries.
Yeah.
There are various consents, NOCs required to be obtained from various intermediaries, including the customers, including the stakeholders, the directors separately. And time and again, various approvals of the board for all these crucial documents are to be taken.
Hmm.
Furthermore, the preparation of the draft offer document involves a creation of a data room wherein all the stakeholders contribute. Each one, there has to be a proper distribution of work, time management, and
Yeah.
in an IPO, it is various functions going simultaneously,
Yeah.
and one needs to be on the toes. Approval of these draft offer documents, getting the same approved by the stock exchanges, the SEBI,
Hmm.
also getting the in principle approval from the stock exchange, preparation of various, I mean, to change the composition of the board, as in to revise the composition of the committees so
Hmm.
as to be in sync with the SEBI regulations, to adopt the terms of reference of various committees in sync with the SEBI LODR regulations.
Yeah.
So there are many such events, of which I have mentioned some of the crucial ones.
Yeah.
And there are, if you see in an IPO, there are at least minimum 18 to 20 approvals of board and shareholders, and accordingly the compliances with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs in terms of filing of periodic forms during the prescribed timelines and getting the various consents. There are a number of agreements to be uh, entered, the agreements with the shareholders, selling shareholder in this case being the government of India. So each and every agreements are to be pre-approved by the government of India as well. So
Yeah.
all these approvals and all these stages happen simultaneously. So if you say this was one of its kind, because and the challenge was because this IPO happened during the COVID pandemic period in 2020. So it was more challenging.
Yeah.
Uh, but thankfully, because of the handholding of the merchant bankers, the legal advisors,
Mm.
the government of India in terms of the being the shareholder and the board of directors and everyone working as a team in coordination, we
Yeah.
could achieve. I could be a part of the. I could contribute to the IPO,
Yeah.
which is the lifetime event in the company as well, and for me also a lifetime
Very sure.
activity in my career.
Correct.
And
Absolutely.
I'm truly blessed and fortunate to be a part of this significant event.
I mean, I'm sure IPO and company listings are not daily affairs, and such insights are so motivating. Really happy that you got to experience this and be a part of something so big. So,
Yes.
moving on throughout your professional life, you've handled tasks related to compliance and given your good grip over corporate laws. Definitely, there must be numerous such tasks that you've also spearheaded. So, we'd like to know more about some of the outstanding ones.
To start with, since we are with this IPO, IPO for me could be a never ending. The more you speak, the more points you get.
Yeah.
So, happening of an IPO and listing is, I mean, okay, that we have done. So now, once an activity is done, you don't feel much about it. I mean, it's happened. So, but then the maintenance, I mean, how to manage the compliances post IPO. There were various mechanisms, various processes and policies and set procedures to be set up in the company. See, IPO was restricted to, say, the company secretary department, the board of directors, the senior managements, the some of the executives or departments of the organization. But once you need to comply post listing compliance, there has to be engagement of the entire employee and the
Yeah.
workforce. So that is where the challenge comes, wherein you establish certain policies and procedures. Like for example, again, as mandated by the SEBI, so that is mandatory and that has to be complied. For example, setting up of a structural digital database, which is mandated by the company, wherein there has to be enough engagement of all the employees, like what information are to be disseminated, how it has to be disseminated, what are the requirement of the SEBI, and constantly update your policies. Similarly, there is the prohibition of insider trading regulations, where the designated employees are engaged. How the trading windows, I mean, in the closure and opening of the trading windows, how these informations are disseminated to the employees, and in what manner they can deal with the shares of the company, when not to deal, and how to go about it.
Yeah.
Again, luckily, and nowadays, large companies has huge employee base, but luckily, agencies like the National Stock, I mean, NSDL and CDSL, with the directions of the SEBI, are now prompting the employees, and like they cannot trade in these shares. But otherwise, the company secretary has to devise a mechanism wherein these procedures are set in place, and constantly there is a to and fro of declarations from the concerned designated employees and
Yeah.
uh, employees. So these are few of the systems to be set in place. How the board meetings and all are to be. I mean, how the various resolutions should come across, whether it is accounts. Again, for example, if there is a declaration of dividend, how the payment is to happen. There is a I mean, there are various steps now involved. Dividend is not an affair of only among the company. There are third parties involved also.
Correct.
There are the registrar and transfer agents, the bankers, the CDSL, the NSDL. So all these parties are to be in sync, and there is actually a checklist which you have to follow, like when the bank accounts are to be opened, when the payment amount has to be transferred, how the payments will be made, what is the closure, I mean, the record date for the shareholders. for the dissemination of the dividend when the company has to communicate with the shareholders. So like now all these activities have become corporate uh, it is like a corporate event, corporate action, which is rightly called. And all these functions have to be so, procedures have to be set in place so that all these compliances are done in a sustainable manner. Of
Yeah.
course, once the systems are put, say you, the first year is very crucial because you have to actually establish the system and you have to go along with it.
Yeah.
Similarly, like engagement with the shareholders, the various reports, the annual report, for example, annual report which comprises of various reports, how they should like be in sync with the uh, other, say, with the practice in the market, like
Yeah.
how the BSRS report has to be formulated. All systems for this, how the information will come to the company secretary department to actually have a a comprehensive document of this size. So the systems had to be put. That was really challenging because now there is an engagement of the employees at all level. You have actually come. For example, even the website of the company. Website of the company has to be updated at all continuously.
Correct.
So because the shareholders are to go through the website of the company. So
Yeah.
all these were like the post listing activities are also very important
Yeah.
because the compliances are to be continuously done.
Correct.
Apart from that, in two, three other tasks which is apart from the normal activity of a company secretary, which comes to my mind is when I was with the BSF Coatings, one of the MNC, I got the opportunity of dealing with the compliances relating to the foreign direct investment and the compliance management, wherein there was a compliance management mechanism which was in sync with the ERP systems, so that at every point of time the user department knew when the agreement are to be renewed, what are the conditions of the agreements, clauses of the agreement, and according which was also available to the accounts. So
Yeah.
the activities were in sync.
Yeah.
Similarly, in Shapoorji Pallonji for shipping, I got the opportunity of dematerializing the entire shareholding
Yeah.
of the company, which was new, a new activity at that stage, and be a part of settlement of their ECB loan. These
Hmm.
are the activities which comes to my mind.
It's really commendable to uncover such valuable aspects of the corporate world, from an industry expert such as you. With your excellence in your field, you have also implemented digital compliance systems, and this involves having intensive technical knowledge. So, how did you adapt to the latest technological changes?
You see, you'll appreciate today Ministry of Corporate Affairs, the Ministry of the Government of India is a pioneer in implementing latest technology.
Yeah.
Today, I think in 2004, Ministry of Corporate Affairs has introduced e-filing, and
Yeah.
the e-filing has gone through various, upgradation and various platforms.
Yeah.
Which once introduced, it was a nightmare for I understand every company secretary to see to it the compliance is done. That was
Yeah.
another challenge. There is
Yeah.
the rule book position under the Companies Act, and then there is something in the e-forms, which again is something which is a time bound, and there are certain things you have to fill in
Yeah.
as per the e-forms, and if you're stuck, you're stuck, and
Yeah.
then you cannot afford to falter on this. You have to make returns, timely submission of returns. Now there is again, I understand the V3, which if you ask any company secretary, any practicing company secretary, or any company secretary to that matter, it's a nightmare for them to even fill up the forms. Of course, it's a teething problem which will be sorted out. Again, there are various returns required by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs and even the SEBI and stock exchanges, which has to be under the XBRL regime, which is a machine learning. Apart from the Excel filings, you have to comply with this also. So, company secretary cannot, has to be adapt with these technological requirements, which are statutory, and one has to adopt means and ways by which the compliance doesn't, falter. Compliance has to be done periodically. It is not like, okay, you don't make a filing, say and you delay for say 1 or 2 months. You can, of course, file it with late fee, but then it is recorded. Of late, there are various notices issued by the Ministry of Companies Affairs because the offense or the mistake was done. The day is not far when the Ministry of Company Affairs may ask the reason for the delay also. So one has to be mindful for that. And again, large companies, including PSUs, MNCs, they have various digital systems, latest technological digital system like the data room, the, uh, the digital interaction file management system amongst the employees. There is this ERP, there's SAP, which are again upgraded as time. Again, there is employee interface and interaction portal.
Correct.
So all these systems are all, and compliance management also.
Yeah.
All these technological things are, it's there in compliance. And for example, the taxation. So one has to be adept to all this. I mean, that is the need of the hour. You cannot falter or you cannot. One has
Absolutely.
to.
Absolutely. So moving on to ESG now, somewhere in your career earlier, something must have piqued your interest in this field. I would love to know more about that.
See, actually, if you see the Constitution of India, it is the fundamental duty of each citizen to conserve the environment around environment in the country. Further, there are various. If you see ESG, that is environmental, social, and governance. If you see in each field, there are various enactments passed, and the companies in India have been complying with each the requirements of these acts separately. For example, in environment, there are various environmental laws. There are various the control and pollution acts like the water control and pollution acts, the air control and pollution acts, the waste management acts, the affluent acts. There are a number of such acts which are already prevailing, and the companies are complying with. For example, the social, wherein the employees are concerned, there is the Factories Act, the Industrial Dispute Act, the Minimum Wages Act, the Provident Fund Act, you name it. So all these are there, and the compliance is happening. And it is, I understand, in a good corporate, good corporate, there is a audit also happening in these fields. Again, in governance, corporate governance is mandated. It's, the report card is there out there there is a separate report on the corporate governance. And again, the governance with respect to, the employees and stakeholders in the terms of grievance mechanism and all, which is now there in the BRSR statement, which is mandated by the SEBI. So these requirements are already there. Further, I think my first, I got a chance of, becoming aware of these ESG related business conduct in the year 2001, when I worked for Kamath Hotels India Limited, which is a ecotel, which is Asia's five-star ecotel, one of the Asia's five-star ecotel hotel, which are having business practices which are sensitive to the environment. So the environment conservation, waste management, solid waste management, water management, employee engagement, and the stakeholders engagement. All these practices were followed by them. Again, I think in the year 2001, government had come with the voluntary guidelines on the ESG concepts of business conduct. Again, I think India is the first country which implemented the Corporate Social Responsibility Act in 2013. Further, the business reporting report, which had to be forming part of the annual report, came, I think, in somewhere around 2017. And thereafter, the introduction of the business sustainable and responsibility report, the BRSR report, which is currently prevalent, which is based on the frameworks introduced, the global frameworks of the global reporting indicators, or the the regulatory body like SASB. I don't think SASB, but the United Nations commissions I mean, BRSR report is the India's reporting framework of ESG to the world.
Hmm.
So ESG is very prevalent. I mean, ESG, I think it's a vast subject.
Yeah.
It has immense potential. Even I think in individual or entrepreneur or individual level also, a lot can be done in ESG. One has to be mindful of how their way of living.
Correct.
One can
Absolutely.
have because already a lot of damage has already happened,
Yeah.
and environment is very visible also. There are, there are the numbers are out. Like
Yeah.
what is the pollution level? What is the, I think 70% of the water available is not usable. There
Yeah.
are various manors lost. Uh, a huge amount of manors lost due to, various disease, waterborne disease.
Yeah.
So scarcity of resource, and one has to be mindful and useful in using these resources in a most ethical and a minimalistic manner. That is how I think that's the only way one can, and might be the organizations can adopt these measures for their business and operating conduct. But I think today, in today's world of AI and today's world of changing times, one needs to be thinking differently
Yeah.
in its conduct and in its operation to have a proper inclusivity in the diversity. Instead of thinking in a traditional way, one needs to think in a different manner in which all the stakeholders are included. And like it should approach should be like if the team wins, I win automatically.
That's true. Absolutely. Mrs. Kumar, honestly, I have loved our interaction entirely, and it covered so many crucial aspects of your professional journey, especially when you spoke about the IPO and the process which goes behind it. It was just very amazing to know all of it. Since Directors Institute is your go-to platform for learning about ESG, what is the one thing that you've liked about us the most?
I liked about, like, you have everything in the I mean, the institute has various what's say learning processes or learning modules catering to various segments of and seniors, and in its quest to give a good leadership this to in the corporate sector,
Yeah.
it's a commendable job. The ESG, the way ESG module is made, it's really enriching. I learned a lot. Of course, upgraded my skills, which can be implemented in a most individualistic, or you say
Yeah.
it's an eye opener.
Hmm.
So
Thank
thank
you.
you very much to the institute.
Well, thank you for being a part of it, and the podcast has turned out to be more enriching than expected. We wish to see loads of contributions from you in the field of ESG. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I wish you all the very best in your journey.
Thank you. Thank you, Asma.
Thank you.